Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 22 of the Memorial Memo, KSR's Kentucky Women's Basketball Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Friends of Cole. Katie, it sucks because we were hoping this week to be talking about a potential Sweet 16 matchup against USC, but that's not going to happen because we got our hearts broken in Memorial Coliseum. But Katie, before we dive into that and the transfer portal and everything the offseason is going to bring us, just how are you today?
I'm doing good, and honestly, I'm really looking forward to this off season. There's already been a lot of movement, so I'm really excited to dive in.
For one, I don't know if I'm excited for the offseason. It's like I was saying right before we hopped on here. I enjoy covering games, not having to dig for information about who's going where. I get it's part of my job. I would just rather tell you who won or lost the basketball game. But Katie, I think we're gonna go ahead and do that first. Kentucky's season ends on an 80-79 loss to Kansas State. Kansas State, it's like we were talking about. They're not a 5 seed. Like, I know they are a 5 seed, but they're not a 5 seed. Like, when they got Aoka Lee back, well, before Aoka Lee got hurt, they were a top 10 team. And now they're that with her back. They're a 2 or a 3 seed, really. And so
Mhm.
Kentucky kind of got screwed when they got placed with Kansas State there in that region. But Katie, just kind of what are your overall thoughts from that game?
I mean, it was definitely heartbreaking, especially the way that the loss happened. And, you can't pin the loss on one person, which I don't think anybody is doing that. But I do think that we saw a lot of runs from Kentucky in this game and then not being able to finish. And I feel like that's something that we kind of have been seeing a lot this season. So to me, it's no surprise that that's how the season ended. It definitely sucks. It's really sad, but I think that this was probably this team's ceiling, if I had to say, maybe Sweet 16. But I wasn't necessarily surprised. Like you said, I think Kansas State's very good. Definitely not a 5 seed, but they just really almost destroyed Kentucky in the paint. And then, of course, Tamara Poindexter went crazy from the perimeter. So just everything went right for Kansas State. Not much went right for Kentucky, but they kept it very close.
See, here's my thing about Poindexter. Obviously, I think in the moment, well, first of all, she starts 0 of 5 from 3,
Yeah.
but then she goes 8 of 10 to finish the game. Now, my thing is whenever Aoka Lee gets the ball in the post, I would say there's a 75% chance she scores. I
Mhm.
mean, really, I think it's like a 65% chance. I think that's what she's shooting on the year. But, you know, Katie, when you get to that point in the game, people were, and I think myself included, were like, they need to guard Poindexter. Like, what are they
Mhm.
doing? They're helping down low, but they need to guard Poindexter. Well, I mean, Katie, would you rather take a chance on Poindexter missing or just give up that 2? I don't know. Clearly, they wanted to see, can Poindexter actually go, 7 for 10 instead of 8 for 10? She goes 7 for 10 to finish the game. You win the game.
Mhm.
But it's just unfortunate, especially because Katie, Kentucky would have been going up against USC in the Sweet 16. And it really hurts because, and again, you never wish for players to get hurt, obviously, but we've seen that Juju Watkins tore her ACL. Obviously, hope she gets better. But Katie, heading into that game, like, Kentucky would have had a real shot. Would they have won? I don't know. But especially with Juju being out, Kentucky would have had a real shot to maybe go to an Elite Eight, their 5th in school history.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely think that I can see a Kansas State win in the Sweet 16 without Juju Watkins. I kind of feel like they have a true shot, just like Kentucky would have. I think my perspective on the whole Aoka Lee Tamara Poindexter situation is they had Tiani Key guarding Poindexter, but also helping Clara Strack with Lee. And I understand that Clara Strack is not big enough to guard Aoka Lee on her own. Um, but it definitely, I don't know. I don't think I would have I don't really think she needed the help. I think that she kind of could hold her own. And I don't know. That's just how I feel.
It's just unfortunate because, again, she goes 7 for 10. Yes, that's crazy, but she does that, you still win the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even then, even with all the 3 she hit, you're one bounce of the rim from winning the game too. And that's what sucks because, Georgia Amore, first of all, heck of a college career, right? I mean, she's going to go on to go have a successful WNBA career. Hopefully, she's back on Kentucky's sidelines one day coaching. First, I thought it was great, Katie, when post game she was like, I'm going to be back. Like, it's not like I'm moving to Australia and using the landline. She was like, I'll be back wearing a red practice jersey and getting up in y'all's faces on defense. I thought that was great. But with Georgia, she had such a great career, and it sucks to kind of see it end on that missed shot. But Katie, I still think, like with Georgia, Vic, Valerie Still, Ron Howard, Audia Matthews, Michaela Epps, Victoria Dunlap, like Patty Jo Hedges, like those are like your greatest players ever. But Katie, I think maybe right next in line could be Georgia Amore, even with this kind of one season she had in Lexington.
Yeah, and one thing that my dad asked that we do a segment about, which of course I did not ask about, but he asked me what is my like Mount Rushmore of Kentucky women's basketball. So if you had to pick like the top 4, I think that it would be kind of a, does Georgia make it? Does she not? I think that her career at Kentucky was absolutely incredible. This season, she was named second team All-America by the Associated Press and the Sporting News. So decorated year for her. I mean, she is just such a great player. I'm really excited to see where she could go from here.
And then shout out to Deja Lawrence, who her career ended too. An incredible season from her, incredible career, but incredible season from her too. Like Deja, to me, Katie, it just seemed like Deja was the emotional and charismatic leader that Kentucky really needed. Like she's the one that's, screaming and giving people high fives and in the layup line. She's the one that's pumping people up. She and then when she, in game, seems like she's the one that was always hitting the clutch shot to kind of give Kentucky a chance to win. I'm really gonna miss what Deja Lawrence brought to this team too.
Yeah, I absolutely love Deja. I think that she was such a good leader for this team. And even though people didn't see her as the star point guard or whatever, I think that she did such a great job outside of playtime. I think that it was very clear that players looked up to her and that she was like a leader on this team. I think that she was very composed and she had just a really great confidence about her that I feel like this team needed. And I think that she brought that every single game.
So, Katie, I want to ask because I just don't want to focus on the Kansas State game itself too much because that game sucked. I mean, objectively a great basketball game, but not what we wanted to see for sure. So, Katie, what were some of your favorite moments, some of your takeaways from the season? I'll go ahead. I'll start. My favorite moment, I think for me, was beating Louisville. And I know that's like a simple, like, oh, beating Louisville. Well, you remember that post-game rapid reaction where I bust out the Louisville sucks shirt, and I guess I didn't see the Louisville staff is walking right by as I screamed Louisville sucks forever, L's down, all of that. Like, for me, the Louisville, like the energy in the building, the post-game celebration, Katie, to me, the Louisville game was my favorite moment of the season. And as far as my takeaways go, like I feel like it's a pretty good year. It's a very good, successful first year of the Kenny Brooks era, right? Like I personally feel like they went 23-8, finished 4th in the SEC, got a double bye in the SEC tournament, hosted in the NCAA tournament. To me, that's exceeding expectations in year one.
Yeah.
To me, that's a lot better than what I expected. I expected Kentucky finish 6th, 7th in the SEC. Maybe, maybe get a bye in the 8th. Obviously, well, if you finish 6th or 7th, you do get a 1-round bye in the SEC, and then maybe be a 6 or 7 in the NCAA tournament, right? Like, Kentucky did better than I thought they would, which gives me a lot of encouragement for the future, Katie.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I was literally thinking about the Louisville win as one of my favorite moments this season. But I think if I had to choose something different, I think I'm going to go with the Oklahoma and the Alabama wins. Happen right back to back. One of them is at home, one of them is away. And Alabama is a team that you weren't supposed to beat. So I think that was kind of the moment where Kentucky really proved themselves in the SEC. And then as for takeaways, I agree. I think this was such a successful first year for Kenny Brooks. And Something I feel like that we've learned over the course of the season is that he is not just a good coach, but he's also a good, I guess, like authority figure in a way, like father figure for some of these girls because he has a lot of loyal players. And I think that he does a great job just making players feel like they matter. Like for Georgia Amore to come back after 4 years and probably being a first round pick in the WNBA and wanted to play one more year with him just because she loved playing for him so much. Like, and only hope that that's what Clara Strack does too. I'd love to see her for 5 years or any like players that he might pick up in the portal. Maybe he can develop that relationship with them as well. And of course, it's not going to turn out that way for every player, but I think that he clearly has great connections with his players. And I think that that is so important for a coach, especially in a league that is so competitive and the world of NIL has so much to offer. So for him to be able to offer up his like a relationship, I think is more important than anything.
I'm glad you brought up the Oklahoma game because that's obviously one of the great moments of the season too. I mean, Georgia Amore ties Oklahoma and Norman, Oklahoma and Greenville we like to forget about, but Oklahoma on the road versus being on a neutral court. That was a great game because I mean, I remember that Kentucky won 95-86 and it still felt like it was like the slow, like sluggish game because the refs were like calling every foul. I think both teams had like 25 fouls on them. It was something ridiculous like that. Like there was more fouls than there were minutes played, right? It was absurd. But Georgia Amore, man, those 43 points, it just felt like you were watching something otherworldly, right? And Katie, is it fair for me to say the first half of the LSU game?
Oh, that was so fun. Even the South Carolina game too.
Yeah, a lot of that South Carolina game too. Yeah, but remember the first half of the LSU game, you're up by 16. I mean, the most fun that I've had. I mean, the funnest moment was by far whenever I don't even remember who it was. Maybe it was Flau'jae, maybe it wasn't. But Georgia tips the ball over them and gets the layup in transition, and that's when Kentucky goes up 36-20 on LSU. And of course, things went spiraling downward after that. But Katie, that first half against LSU, man, Clara Silva. Of course, we're going to talk about her. She's not even here anymore, but she hits that one jump, mid-range jump shot. Amazing camera work, zooms in on the Mulkey face where she's just giving them that dead stare of just absolute artwork, beautiful artwork there. But that first half of the LSU game was great. The Tennessee game, Katie, that was another great game. But I remember from that game, objectively, the Tennessee game was probably the most fun game for a lot of people. But I remember being so tense because of what was on the line. We were up by 20, and I couldn't even enjoy it because I was like, well, Kentucky has to win to get the double bye. Kentucky has to win. Kentucky has to win. And it was just, But Katie, those are some more of my favorite moments from this season, too.
Yeah, I remember the Tennessee game. It was like we were up 20, I think closer to the half. I can't remember exactly when it was, but you said I'm not going to relax until there's 2 minutes left in this game and they can't possibly come back. And I felt the exact same way because, I mean, you never know what can happen. I mean, they were up 16 on LSU and still couldn't win. So it was definitely stressful, but to pull off that win, especially against what looked like a very good Tennessee team, was super fun.
I think the first game that we really kind of thought oh, is this team going to be special was when they beat Illinois by 23 in Nashville. You remember Baller TV? You remember that whole ordeal?
Yes.
Golly, that felt like it was eons ago. USC Upstate, Kentucky's biggest win of the season was their first of the season. Remember, I thought Clara Silva was going to be the number 1 draft pick, next year, even though she literally can't be. I mean, I thought that was just like the greatest thing ever. But Katie, there's a lot of great moments, but I think it's fair to say you're one of the Kenny Brooks era, a certain success.
Oh, definitely a success.
And there we go, a certain success in year 1 of the Kenny Brooks era. Real quick, I want to give a quick shout to our friends over at Friends of Cole who have sponsored us all season long and throughout the postseason. Friends of Coal is dedicated to informing and educating Kentucky citizens about the coal industry and its vital role in the state's future. We provide a united voice for an industry that has been and remains a critical economic contributor to Kentucky. By working together, we can provide good jobs and benefits for future generations. Coal is resilient, reliable, and affordable. Friends of Coal is a volunteer organization. All are invited to be a part of our organization, which consists of proud Kentuckians as well as residents from beyond our borders. Head to friendsofcoalkentucky.org to learn more. But Katie, of course, with the season being over, it's unfortunately time to talk about the transfer portal. And yesterday, I'll admit, the transfer portal in women's basketball opened up yesterday. For men's basketball, opened on Monday, I believe. I was caught off guard because I wasn't paying attention. Clara Silva entering the transfer portal. We got this fan says the season somehow felt like several seasons of the Matthew Mitchell era, especially when Matthews was a freshman. I kind of agree with that, actually. This does feel like a lot of those Matthew Mitchell seasons where, especially on the in the earlier part of his tenure, where you could tell they were making that climb to be, Sweet 16 appearance he had, and then they got to the Elite Eight the next three or 4 years. But Katie, I agree with that. With this fan 9212, that this season did kind of feel like a lot of those Matthew Mitchell seasons.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Now, I wasn't like really I would even say not really paying attention to Kentucky basketball at all when Matthew Mitchell first started, but you can kind of tell, especially towards the end of his tenure, that he was very well loved and he clearly was passionate about what he did. And so I think that that's kind of where we're headed, is with a coach that loves what he does and is passionate about his school.
But as we were saying before, Katie, Clara Silva enters the transfer portal. This is where people tune into the Memorial Memo for, right? Because they want to hear why. I was told kind of throughout the season that Clara Silva's confidence was just kind of at an all-time low. And, I have to look, I'm going to be completely transparent with everybody on here. I have to dance around the way I say things so I don't get a stern phone call. That's just the fact of the matter. Clara Silva, Kenny Brooks, the way he coaches, I would say is tough coaching. That's not a bad thing. I don't even know if it's a good thing, but that's just the way he coaches. He's he wants to bring a lot out of his players. And Katie, that coaching style, coaching someone really hard, that just doesn't always resonate with every single player. I remember when I played high school football, and I wanted to be coached hard. I wanted to be pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And, even to the point where you're basically being screamed at, why are you doing this wrong? That's not necessarily how it is for every single player. Some people want to be, sweet talked almost. Some people want I don't know what the word is, like gentle coaching, if you will. And I just don't think Clara Silva, Kenny Brooks really ever clicked. And I think part of it with Clara too is that, this year she was homesick a lot. She missed home. She's not going back home. She's not, at least not now, but she just really wasn't ever comfortable. She really wasn't ever confident at Kentucky. But Katie, it did admittedly catch me a little off guard whenever, of course, on three's Talia Goodman reported that Silva was entering the portal.
Yeah, and I think that, I was kind of expecting other players to hit the portal before Silva. I wasn't necessarily expecting Silva to hit the portal, but I wasn't shocked. Like you said, I mean, we had been told all season that she was just not the most confident in herself. And I remember when we got to interview her earlier in the season, she was very obviously timid. And that's not anything like bad about her. Some people are just naturally more introverted. And I feel like most of the girls on this team do not give off that introverted energy. I mean, we were in there interviewing the team the day before the second round, and they were all like acting crazy and having a good time. But Clara Silva was kind of just sitting on the phone with somebody. And so it was not a surprise to me. And like you said about the tough coaching, I just feel like when you're a little bit more timid, having a tough coach is really difficult. Like I played sports in high school, and even though I wasn't like super shy, I still was more reserved when it came to playing my sports. And when a coach would yell at me, I take that personally and be like, oh, they don't really like me. Like, I don't really know what's happening. So maybe that's what happened with her. I don't know. He's obviously a tough coach. And like you said, that's not everyone's forte. So she's probably just looking for something different.
I think regardless, you just got to hope she goes out and finds something better for her. She goes in the portal with that do not contact tag. And Katie, it usually that means I already know where I'm going. Don't even bother. But Katie, a lot of the time now, that can also just mean, hey, please talk to my agent and not me. And I think that's more the case with Silva. But Katie, I tweeted out and I had some people reach out and ask me, and I think in my comments and my messages, you said, losing Clara Silva is a massive loss. Why do you think that is? Because you look at her stats, and you probably don't think that's a massive loss. 4 points, 2.6 rebounds per game. You probably don't think that's a massive loss. But Katie, first of all, to me, you can't teach 6'7". You can't teach God-given height, God-given size. But I also just think she had a lot of potential. I think there was a prospect of I think she could have developed under Kenny Brooks a lot. Could have developed into a really good big. It's just unfortunate that we didn't see that. And to me, Katie, that's why, in my opinion, this could end up being, like I said, a massive loss.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that I think I said in my tweet, I was like, I really was excited to see how she could develop under Kenny Brooks because clearly he did that with Clara Strack. And Clara Strack didn't play hardly any games until in her freshman season until the NCAA tournament. And she had spent this whole season getting developed under Liz Kitley. And so I was kind of excited to see Clara Silva develop under Clara Strack. And even though Clara Silva, I think, is used to kind of being the star on her teams, especially back home, she probably wasn't used to not being that star. And it might have been kind of jarring to think, oh, well, someone else is better than me. Like, I don't want to be in the shadows. And since Clara Strack is only a sophomore this year, she's still got 2 years left here, at least. Maybe Clara Silva just felt like there wasn't really a spot for her. But I would have loved to see both of them in the lineup together and Clara Silva have developed the same way that Strack did.
I definitely agree with you there. I don't think there's anything to dispute on that front. Katie, I was told by a couple of people, Saniah Tyler also entered the transfer portal. This one's really unfortunate to me because I personally just love Saniah. I got the pleasure of knowing her a little bit, her mom a little bit. Saniah is an awesome person. I have tremendous respect for her for gutting it out for a year at Kentucky. Her sophomore year averaged 10 points a game, didn't quite get the run that she would have loved this season. It's just unfortunate to me. I think the worst part about it to me, Katie, and again, this is probably what people come here for. I think her leaving was probably a bit more one-sided. I think she was open to returning, but I just don't. I think essentially she may have been told, "Hey, man, I just don't know if we have a spot for you," and that sucks. At least that's what I've heard, kind of behind the scenes a little bit. But Saniah Tyler enters the transfer portal. Katie spent her first 3 years at Kentucky. She can go shine elsewhere. I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up somewhere like Missouri. That's where she's from. They just got a new head coach, and Kelly Harper. They could be someone to watch for her. But Katie, Saniah Tyler enters the transfer portal. What are your immediate thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this one is really sad because she and Cassidy Rowe were the only two left over from last season. And I think Saniah is great. I think that she's very nice. I think I've talked to her mom a couple of times. She's very sweet as well. So losing someone who it's like you're breaking up Cassidy and Saniah. Like that's Cassidy and Saniah. You don't just break them up. Like we talked to Cassidy earlier in the season too, and she said that her and Saniah sat down and they just like cried because they wanted to stay so badly and they didn't know what to do, but they decided to stay together. And it literally breaks my heart to think like, what do you think Saniah said to Cassidy whenever she was making this decision? Like it has to be so difficult for both of them. And Um, yeah, I really, really hope that she finds a place that has a spot for her. Towards the end of the season, she was getting some more quality minutes, but not really producing offensively. But I think that she was a great ball handler. I think she did a good job at giving Deja or Georgia a break whenever they needed to. But of course, when you go from playing 30 minutes a game to playing 12 minutes a game, and even at points playing 0 minutes a game, it has to be really like your confidence has to drop immensely. And I just hope that she finds the perfect place for her and her game because I wish her the best of luck.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. You obviously wish her the best of luck. And she wanted a big role this year. And, I think originally you'd probably think, oh, she can have a big role in this team because she's a shooter and everything. Just didn't work out. She had a hard time adjusting to Kenny's system, it seems. It's just really unfortunate that it didn't work out for her. But again, same thing with Clara Silva. You hope to see her succeed elsewhere. Now, Katie, Tanah Becker. Now, this one's a little bit different because I reported yesterday that Tanah Becker planned on entering the transfer portal. Notice that verbiage is different than the verbiage we use with Clara Silva and Saniah Tyler. Those two are officially in the portal right now. Tanah Becker at this very moment in time at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, March 26th here that we're recording. She is not yet in the portal officially, but I've been told that she plans on entering the portal. I think we could expect that to happen soon. Katie, she committed under Kyra Elsie. Credit to her for sticking it out again under a new coach, and just didn't get the playing time this season. But from what I've seen of her, she's a great perimeter defender in my opinion. Her length allows for that, but she can also shoot the ball decently well, Katie. But committed under Kyra Elsie, didn't really get to see a whole lot of her this year. It's looking like she will be gone elsewhere, maybe a mid-major school, something like that. But Katie, Tanah Becker also leaving the program.
Yeah, and I think what really kind of sucks for her is like this was a year of eligibility. Like she played 4 games, and so she can't even she couldn't have even redshirted and gone somewhere else and gone her 4 years. Like I wish her the best of luck. Of course, we didn't get to see much of her, especially this portion of the season. I don't know if she was really expecting to have a bigger role. It's just hard whenever you have an older team with a lot more experience. I mean, coming in as a freshman, I feel like in women's basketball, you can't really expect to play that much unless you are just like insane at your game and your coach would be stupid not to play you. I wish that she would give it, maybe another year, but again, like I don't know, maybe she just wants a bigger role somewhere else, and I understand that, but I would have been excited to see how she could develop as well.
Here's my kind of thing with Tana. You get one chance in life to play college basketball. And it is very unfortunate the way the red shirt rules are because she played in 4 games, didn't play a ton at all, but she still can't redshirt. Last year was essentially wasted for Tanah Becker. Playing in 1 game, Katie, you can't redshirt. And by the way, the NCAA, they got to change that. Like you got to, I don't know, like if it's a minutes number, a game number, a percentage of games number, but like you got to find a way to get these players to be redshirted because I mean, seriously, Tanah Becker, she deserves a red shirt. She deserves to have 4 more years, but because she played in 4 games, played maybe, I don't even know, 20 total minutes this season, if that, she loses a whole year of eligibility. That just seems really unfortunate to me, Katie.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope that even though we haven't seen her play recently, I hope that practicing with players better than her has been really helpful. But it also kind of sucks because what kind of film does she have to send to other schools? Like they haven't really seen anything from her, and anything that she has to go off of is either from high school or from those 4 games that she played at the beginning of the season. So you can't even really expect her to be like a top pick at a Big Ten school or anywhere like that. I don't know. It really sucks for her, and I wish that she could redshirt. I hope that she can find somewhere that will give her the time of day because I think that she can be very good.
And it's just unfortunate to see her have to go, but I understand it. Disfan9212 asks, with losing Saniah now, how does this affect Kentucky's backcourt next year? I mean, it affects it to a degree, but I think regardless of what you think, Kenny's got to go portaling. And that brings me to my next point, Katie. Transfer portal needs, right? Like, in your opinion, what does Kenny Brooks need to go out and get? Because to me, the first and most obvious point is that, okay, Kenny needs a veteran point guard to replace Georgia
Mhm.
Amore. And by the way, I know I've seen it 150 times on my Twitter. I know little Amore, Gemma, is in the portal. I don't think she's quite Kentucky caliber. Maybe they offer her and give her a place on the roster just because they wanna. Cool with me, but I don't know if she's the point guard of the future. But Katie, I think you have to have at least somebody there to kind of bridge the gap from from this year to when Madden Greenway arrives the following season.
Yeah, I definitely think so, and, we haven't seen a lot of great point guards enter the portal yet, but I also think that Kenny needs to go out and get a bigger big. I think that it's really important to have someone on the post that can handle people like Reagan Beers, someone like that who is just so physical and bigger than Clara Strack, because even though Clara Strack is tall, she's not really big. I mean, she's strong, but she can't really like compete against these girls that are double her size. I think that it would be really fun to watch Clara Strack at the 4 and have a legit big at the 5 that isn't just tall, but also big. I don't know what else to say about that, but yeah.
Yeah, I get your point. You want someone who's tall and someone who's physical. Now, Katie, well, she's not very tall. She's only 6'1". Kentucky did reach out to Carter McCray out of Wisconsin. I was told that. I think Talia was also told that. If I'm right about that, Carter McCray, again, 6'1", so not the biggest size. It makes sense why they reached out to her now because you lose someone like Clara Silva. McCray is an interesting piece for me, Katie. Averaged 10.6 points and 7.1 rebounds per game last year as a sophomore. So she would have 2 years of eligibility upcoming this season. There's a lot of schools that are kind of in contention for her, a lot of really good schools. Alabama, Oklahoma State, Utah, for example. But McCray, I think she'd be an interesting fit. But Katie, to me, I think when he sees McCray, he's like, okay, we just like straight up physicality. Maybe
Mhm.
not much size. Maybe we didn't like size as much, but straight up physicality, that's something we did like. And I think that's what he's going for by contacting Carter McCray.
Yeah, I think McCray is kind of like the diamond in the rough at Wisconsin because she just happened to be like a decent player on a pretty bad team. Um, I think that she could fit. I don't really know much about McCray other than what I've seen in a few games, but I think that she could fit if, they take the time to truly develop her because she's not going to play like Clara Strack did. She's not as, I guess, like athletic. I don't know if that's the right word to say, but Clara Strack can run the floor and handle the ball. I don't think that Carter McCray can really handle the ball as well.
Definitely not.
Um,
Maybe this is the word you look. Definitely not as versatile as Claire
yeah,
Strack is.
yeah. So I think it would be interesting to see how she would fit into the scheme, but it would have to be in a different way than they coached Clara Strack, if that makes sense.
Again, I think you'd almost just bring her in, and maybe you could. And this would be a very weird scenario, but I could see it. Maybe you even have Clara Strack in some lineups as a stretch 4, and have her McCray as a 5 if need be. Like McCray, she is not at all a threat from the 3-point line. Hasn't even attempted a 3. Like Carter McCray lives in the paint, and that's her thing. She's very one-dimensional, but Katie, she's really good at what she does. I don't know if Carter McCray is the player. And obviously, I think at this point, it's fair to say Kentucky's probably contacted some more people. I just personally don't know who that is at this point in time, to be very honest. But, it's like veteran point guard to kind of bridge the gap to Madden Greenway. maybe some more guards to help, some more shooting, more someone like Deja Lawrence. Get a Deja Lawrence or two, and then someone like Carter McRae, Katie. Kentucky, assuming Tana actually enters the portal here, at some point soon, because again, I was told that she's planning on it. That leaves 6 open scholarships. Now, Kenny Brooks is probably likely to fill 4 of those. 4, maybe, probably 4, I would say is the number you're looking for. So if I had to guess, Katie, someone like Carter McRae, a point guard, and then 2 shooters, and then, just for the heck of it, maybe someone, maybe Gemma Amore, because why not? We love you.
Yeah, and I mean, I have a couple people in mind that I would like to see. I don't know if this does not mean anything. I have not heard anything, but I was literally talking to my dad yesterday, and he was like, "What about that Gracie Merkel from Penn State?" And I was like, "Wait, she actually will be great." I mean, I think she's averaging about 16 points per game right now. And then you also have uh the forward from NC State, and I cannot think of her name off the top of my head, but she entered the transfer portal on the first day. It's like Caitlin something. I can't remember exactly, but she's very good too, and I think that she would be a good fit. And other than that, you pick up Gemma Amore, that would just be kind of fun, and then a veteran point guard.
I think it would be pretty fun to get little Amore, to be fair. It would be really funny to see her on the team. But Katie, Gracie Merkel, she would be, in my opinion, a really great fit on this team. She has a do not contact tag, so that's one of those things like, does she know where she's going? Is it so people talk to her agent? You just don't know with her. There's one name that I want people to keep an eye on. I don't know if Kentucky's contacted her yet, but her name suddenly slipped. How about that, Katie? Me and you both. But she was at Virginia. I'll find it in just a second. She was at Virginia Tech this season. Played her freshman season there. Originally committed under Kenny Brooks. She kind of like Tanah Becker committed under the previous coaching staff, stayed. Mile Hazelton, that's her name. That's a name I want people to keep an eye on. I don't know if Kentucky has reached out, if they will or if they won't, but Maya Hazelton committed to Virginia Tech under Kenny Brooks, is back in the portal. So Katie, that seems like a very logical leap to make. Like, okay, maybe Kentucky could go get her. And by the way, just for for reference, she's, I believe, 6'4". She's 6'4" out of Baltimore. Definitely someone that Kentucky could go get, Katie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was just looking at Talia's transfer portal tracker, and I think it's really interesting to see Ramaya White on the list because she was committed to Kentucky under Elsie and then ended up going to Virginia Tech, funnily enough. Now she's back in the portal. Obviously, she went to Virginia Tech for a reason. I'm sure that they probably told her, I would say Kenny Brooks probably told her, like, you don't really fit in to my system. But, who knows? Maybe, I don't know. She averaged 1.5 points a game this season, so maybe she'll have a place back. She is from Kentucky. She's 6'5", pretty physical. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I'm like you. It's one of those things that I guess we'll see. You just don't know at this point. It's a little early. Come to notice, I try to talk to people around, people around the game, around certain teams, certain programs, certain players, blah blah blah, and people in women's basketball aren't quite as open about telling you things. Put it that way. As they are men. You see, like in men's basketball, now a lot of it is just BB and speculation. But Katie, you go on Twitter, and it's like every 5 minutes, Kentucky reached out to someone new. Or to be honest, some white kid from Iowa, and Kentucky fans are like, oh, that's just Colin Chandler waiting to happen, or Travis Perry waiting to happen, Or they see the conference player of the year out of, name your conference, and like, that's a cat right there. But not quite the same in women's basketball. It's a bit of a slower process. Carter McRae is the one confirmed contact that I know of, that we know of. Interesting contact, to say the least, but I'm excited to see how it goes. But Katie, I think we're going to call that an episode because, again, I got to get to Rupp Arena and watch some Sweet 16 basketball. We were talking about before we got on. St. X, man, they just, what are you doing? Like, you were supposed to win the tournament and you lost to J-Town. Now, I get J-Town's good, But come on, man. Say next. What are you doing? Katie, before we get out of here, do you have any final words?
I know you're going to cover the last 2 games of the night, so keep me updated on Ashland, okay? That's my alma mater. Last time, well, my senior year, they made it to the state tournament and lost to St. X. So now that St. X is out of the tournament, I don't know. Maybe Kentucky can make a run.
Well, let me say this. They're the Tomcats, right?
Or Ashland, yeah. I said Kentucky.
Ashland Blazer Tomcats. They play a really good Callaway County team that's kind of not close to where I'm from, but kind of in the same part of Western Kentucky. That ought to be a good game. But Katie, I'm Phoenix. I guess you know who I am. Everyone listening, I'm Phoenix Stevens alongside Katie Hutchison. This has been episode 22 of the Memorial Memo. Got a lot of basketball to talk about all throughout the offseason. Can't wait to do more of it. This has been, like I said, episode 22, and we will catch you all next time.